Okay, here we go. What's up, YouTube? Today I have a very, very special guest for you. He was a former Satanic High Wizard, Zachary King. In 2008, he converted to Christ, gave his life immediately to Christ, and is a servant of Catholicism. He decided to go in Catholicism, and that's okay. He has a website that you can go to. It's called allsaintsministry.org. He also has programs on Spotify, and he has his podcast. He's a public speaker. He's an author. The name of his book is called Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifices. And Zachary, I want to thank you for coming on this, and I really appreciate you having you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, yes. I love your name, by the way, Zachary King. I've always wanted the last name King. Is that something that that you had? I don't know. I was like, well, I remember anybody that I met King, they were always in charge of something.
My name was Zachary Halston,
Really?
and I lived in Burlington, Vermont.
Uh-huh.
And in Burlington, Vermont, it is oftentimes customary to take your wife's last name.
Really?
So my wife was Catherine King, and when we were discussing name changes after the wedding, she didn't want to change her name. She liked the name King,
Uh-huh.
and I liked the name King.
Yeah,
And I thought Zachary King has a nice ring to it.
I do.
So, so
I
I
do.
took her name, and then we eventually divorced. She divorced me, and I kept the name. And by then, everybody knew me.
Right.
Everybody knew Zachary King. And if I changed my name back, people would be out there looking for Zachary King, and they can't find me.
Right. So yeah, I mean it's an awesome name. I mean, I love that last name, King. Even Catherine King sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
she went with Katie King. Here's kind of something that's funny. We didn't know this when we got married. So her name at the time was Catherine, but she goes by Katie. And so her name was Katie King.
uh
Do you know what Katie King is?
No,
Katie King is the slang word for a ghost back in like 100 years ago.
really?
If you saw a ghost in your house, you called it a Katie King.
Wow.
No idea how that came about.
Yeah, that is amazing. Okay, so you know a lot about spiritual warfare, and I
But
know your testimony is out there, and it's an incredible testimony. We could just touch over it. I know, if we could just touch over it briefly, and then I could ask you a few questions about some of the things and
sure.
experiences that I've had. So, um, you were, you were at the time, it was 2008, you were working in a jewelry store and someone had given you you had sold some jewelry, and this lady was sitting there. Go ahead, I'll let you explain it.
You want me to tell my conversion story first?
However you feel led, however you feel led. I just did have some questions on spiritual stuff that I want to touch over, but you go
Well,
ahead.
let me do the I'll give like the Reader's Digest condensed version of my story, so
Sure.
people have an idea of how bad it got before my conversion story.
Yes.
So at 10 years old, I wanted to know if magic was real, and I did two magic spells that worked, and then I did a third one that worked really well. So this was for $5. It wasn't $4 or $5. I just did it for money. I got $5, then $10, then $1,000. At the same time, I was doing the Bloody Mary game at school, and every time we did it, I saw the demonic face come up in the mirror, and eventually I used that and coupled with a magic spell for money to get $1,000. Again, not the goal; it's just what I ended up with. Um, I joined a satanic coven when I was 12, not knowing it was a satanic coven. At 13, I found out that it was, and also at 12, I got involved in child pornography. I was in that for 4.5 years. I officially sold my soul to the devil when I was 13. When I was 14, I committed my first assisted abortion. I committed a few more until I turned 18. I graduated from high school, went on to college, and joined a bigger satanic coven and stayed with that for 12 years. Well, stayed with that for 15 years, but 12 years as the High Wizard. And I escaped from that in 1999. And I was pretty much very paranoid. I feared for my life. I knew that, Satan, demons, and the Satanists themselves would be looking for me. And then, um, leading up to 2008, I was the manager. I lived in Burlington, Vermont, and I was a manager. I was a general manager at a jewelry store called Piercing Pagoda. It was the largest kiosk in the mall. And, I was really good at sales, and we only needed like maybe $65 to make the day. It's based on you have to make 6% more than what you made on the previous day last year. And so, 6% more is like nothing. So, on that day, it was like a dollar something or $2 and something more than the 65. This woman came up to buy a pair of gold hoop earrings. And I present her with the perfect pair based on what she said. And I'm just about to close the deal. And she says, actually, I'm shopping with my daughter. When I'm done, I'll come back up and I'll buy these. Now, I've been a manager for a while. I know that when women say that, they mean I'm going to go find them cheaper at some other store and you'll never see them again. But she had an honest face. I knew she was coming back. And sure enough, 3 hours later, she comes back
Hmm.
and we do the deal. And at the end of that, I gave her the receipt. And at that time, we were having a promotion where if you call the 800 number on this receipt and take a survey, you might win $1,000. And she goes, "That's great. I've got something for you too." And I'm thinking, oh no, she's going to give me a Jack Chick pamphlet, tell me that I'm sinning, I need to drop to my knees and beg for forgiveness. All this stuff that I can't do because I sold my soul to the devil when I was 13. And instead, she pulls out this cheap gold colored piece of tin. No idea what it is. And she says the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, let me quantify that statement. As a high wizard, I made from 1987 to 1999, I made 1,200 rock stars. So if you give somebody that can write poetry and music and songs unlimited alcohol and drugs, they can say some really strange stuff. Like the examples that I throw out at my conferences is, how about Katy Perry? I kissed a girl and I liked it. Who cares? Or the number one song of either 98 or 99. This is like not just the number one song, but the number one video on MTV. It was Bow It to Bob by Kid Rock. It's like your breakout song is sometimes the best song you ever do. No other song you do ever comes as high as that on the charts. But this song turned him into a rock god. The chorus of it is bow to ba, to dang, diggy diggy, up jumps the boogie. And it's like, that's the best you got? That's the song that we made number one for the year? And what she said sounded more bizarre to me than bow to ba. She said, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. I grew up Baptist. Mary gave birth to Jesus. There was nothing else that Mary did that we knew of. We didn't hear about Jesus, Mary, and Joseph fleeing to Egypt. And we didn't hear about Jesus' first miracle because Jesus turned water to wine and the Baptists don't drink. We never heard about that. I didn't hear about that miracle until I was Catholic. And so we didn't know about anything else that Mary did except giving birth to Jesus. And then she said it's very powerful. Well, Protestants don't bless anything. So this woman's got to represent some female deity cult. And I'm not interested in her cult because what if I join it and it's connected to my other cult? I'm trying to hide. I don't need them to just find me because I joined another cult. So she keeps talking on and on and on. And I kind of just go to my happy place. And I'm thinking, how do they all find me? There has to be a sign above my head that only crazy people can see. And it says, crazy, come here, and a big arrow pointing down to me. And I've tuned her out. And after a while, I realized she's still talking. Now, I got her money. She got the gold. This was a win-win for both of us. Why is she still talking to me? So I tune her back in. And she says again, it's very powerful. Mm-mm. No, 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 no. I was a high wizard. There's between 2 and 5 of us in the world, but the number could be as low as 1 or as high as 10. So at one time, I might have been the only one high wizard out of like 6 billion people in the world. And you're trying to tell me this blessed miraculous metal can do something to me? There's no power, no mystique to this. This can't touch me. So I stick my hand out for it. And she's all giddy because I'm willing to take it. She drops it in my hand and I clench my fist around it because I knew I can feel the power of this and no, there's nothing here. And I'm going to toss it on my floor or slam it on my counter. And I'm going to tell her it's worthless. Your God has no power. And then if she gets mad and decides she wants her money back, that's fine. I'll do that. And if she decides she wants to call my regional vice president and complain, you can do that too. Because at that time, I made I made my days, my weeks, my month, my quarter, my 6 month, and my year. Nobody's sales top mine. So she's not going to believe that I insulted somebody to their face. She's going to think they didn't like your tie, they didn't like your hair, they didn't like your suit, they didn't like your cologne, something like that, but it's not you personally they didn't like. I'm sure you didn't insult her. So she drops in my hand and I clench my fist around it because I'm going to tell her it's a piece of garbage. Except when I clench my fist around it, my store and my mall completely disappear. I'm standing in this darkened void. This woman, her name is Marianne Wickman, is still talking to me. And she tells me about the magic spell I did last night. And that's of the devil. And I've committed over 100 abortions, and that's of the devil. I've split over 100 churches, and that's of the devil. And she says like 8 or 9 other sins, and everything ends with, and that's of the devil. Now, when I first got here, I wanted to hit her with an energy burst, knock her back, try and find my way back to my mole. But now I realize that as the high wizard, I could not have given somebody a worthless gold colored piece of tin, transport both of us to a darkened void, and know all their sins. Her magic is stronger than mine, and I was the high wizard. So I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. I'm starting to sweat. I don't know. If I drop this metal, am I going to fall through this darkened void and never find my way back to my mall? Or am I going to end up someplace else? What do I do to get home? I don't know. And she says again, the Blessed Mother is calling you into her army. And this time when she said it, it was like a grace from the Holy Spirit who told me that was the Mother of God, which was a very strange revelation for a former Baptist to have. We'd rather shoot ourselves in the face with a shotgun than say Mother of God. And when I knew it was the Mother of God, Mary appeared. She is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen in my life. And she smiled at me. I was acutely aware of my 146 assisted abortions, and I knew that was a smile I did not deserve. And she took me by the hand and she turned me around. Divine Mercy Jesus was standing behind me. I didn't know what Divine Mercy was. I just knew I had these rays of light shooting under me, over me, and through me from Jesus' heart. And I knew in that instant I did not sell my soul to the devil when I was 13. I knew that Jesus Christ was my Lord and Savior. I knew that all my magic, my occult, my New Age, and my Satanism was false. And I knew everything Catholic was truth. And the Blessed Mother told me my job was to help her end abortion. And I opened my hands and I was back in my store, back in my mall. This woman told me where she went to Mass. And while she's talking to me, she tells me she is Father Joseph Whalen's personal assistant and that he's so busy he doesn't even have time to talk to her. And while she's talking to me, her cell phone rings. She looks down on it. She goes, "This is Father Joe. I've got to take it." So at that time, Father Joe was starting to go deaf. So he talked like everybody was going deaf. So everything he said on the phone, I could hear him. So she's like, "Hello, Father Joe. What can I do for you?" He goes, "Can you hand the phone to the young man you're talking to?" She's like, certainly. She hands me the phone. I'm shaking like Ozzy Osbourne. I'm like, hello? Welcome to the faith. Hand the phone back to Marianne. So I hand the phone back to her. He hangs up on her. Her daughter comes back up to the counter and she said, could you go out to the truck and bring this man one of each of everything? So she goes out to the truck. We get two more phone calls like that first one. And then her daughter comes back in with a huge paper grocery bag filled with a Catholic Bible, um, a bunch of pamphlets, why do Catholics do this or believe that, and like 125 Lighthouse Catholic media discs. And then at the end of the day, I went home. My ex wife was doing the dishes, and I walked in the door. She had been a disfellowshipped Jehovah's Witness. And in the Jehovah's Witness faith, their mortal enemies are the Catholics. So I walked in the door and I said, hey, honey, guess what? I'm Catholic now. She was not very happy. She was
Uh-huh.
mad.
Uh-huh.
But the very next day, she went to Mass with me. And the first Mass at the consecration, I saw Jesus. Divine Mercy Jesus is up on the altar. And I was blown away. I said, "You see that?" She was, "What?" I said, "That man up there on the stage." She said, "That's the priest." I said, "No, the other guy." She says, "I don't see anything." I said, "You don't see it because you're not Catholic." I thought I was instantly Catholic at that point. But I found out that wasn't true. But I also thought everybody in that church was seeing the same thing I was seeing. I thought, this is the best kept secret from me in the world. Had I known that the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ was legitimately in the Catholic Church, I'd have been there as a child and I'd have never left. I mean, that was like the biggest kept secret for me in the whole world. I found out that everybody wasn't seeing that, but I also found out there was a place I could go that I could see Jesus anytime. There's a place called Perpetual Adoration, also sometimes called an Adoration Chapel. And I was like, is there a sign up sheet for that? Like, do you sign up for that? And then in 6 months, they tell you your 4 hour block of time is coming up. And if you miss it, you can't go back for like 3 or 4 years. And they're like laughing at me as I'm saying this. They're like, no, you just go. I was like, there's no line to get in. No, there's no line to get in. I was like, there's a line to get in to see Elvis, and he's been dead over 40 years. So we go. Shock number one, we're the only other car in the parking lot. Shock number two, there is indeed no line to get in. Shock number three, we open the chapel door. It's me, my ex wife, some woman, and Jesus. This woman looks up like a deer in the headlights and she packs her stuff as fast as she can go. If this was an Olympic event, she got gold. And then she says, you can't leave till someone else comes in. And bam, she's out the door. And I thought, why would I leave? I'm in a room with God. That was my normal hangout. I would go there every day, anywhere from 30 minutes to 18 hours a day. And that was, I was given that in January of '08. And I officially came into the church in May of '08. And since doing that, I started All Saints Ministry in 2010. So from October 2010 until December 2025, I have done over 260 interviews and I've spoken at over 240 conferences. And
Man,
here we are.
that's awesome. Now it's two, you can add another number on that list there. Yes. So it's an incredible story. And in Revelations chapter 12, verse 11 says, they overcame him, uh, the enemy, by the blood of the Lamb and by the power of their testimony. So I wanted you to share your testimony because your testimony is so powerful. That's powerful. It's how your conversion to Christ and how you came to know him. And that's what it is. It's we can't marginalize that. We can't not remember that. Now, let me ask you this. When the lady gave you the piece, well, this was a 10, a piece of 10 that had Mary on it, the Mother Mary. Um,
Yes.
and you held on to it and you were transported. And she
Right.
then you were in a different place at that time. Was she the same lady that was talking to you, or it was the Mother Mary that was talking to you and telling you about the sins?
No, it was Marianne Wickman had given me the medal, and she's the one that kept talking to me, but I couldn't see her.
Okay, so she kept on talking to you, but she was talking to your spirit, and this you were like
Right.
in the spirit, and you knew because it was everything. I think. Go ahead.
Everything she said was true.
I
I
I
had done a magic spell the night before, and
right,
everything else she's telling me about is all stuff I was guilty of.
and I think that's what there's a passage in the Bible and talks about that when people, when they don't make it in the afterlife and go to hell, that they go to the place where the worm never dies. And the worm never dies. I was like, what is that? What is that worm that never dies? And what some people say, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Some people say that worm that never dies is regret. That time where we could have changed. We could have turned our life around. We could have said we were sorry. We could have forgiven ourselves, but we didn't. And I don't know. You think in the and because like I said, I have questions about Catholicism that I don't know. Is does is there an eternal hell, or is there? Tell me about purgatory. What is purgatory? Is like you how does it work?
When you die, you in the Bible, I can't quote like you do, but in
Yeah.
the Bible, it says that you cannot be in front of God if you have sin.
Hmm.
If you've got the stain of sin on your soul, you can't be in God's presence. So going to purgatory is like hitting the showers. You've got to get clean before you can be in the presence of God. But it's not water, it's fire as if you went to hell. It's purging the the sin that you have. Like if you were sinful with your hands, then your hands are burning. If you were sinful because of your eyes are burning. If you did a
Oh,
bunch of sexual sins, those areas are burning.
oh
And you
wow.
stay there until you've been purged of all of that. In the Old Testament, there's a verse that talks about there's a guy that is there to see God, and an angel comes up to him, puts tongs in a miniature cauldron, takes a piece of hot coal out, and touches it to his lips
Yes.
so that he can burn away or purge the sins that he's used his mouth for.
Mm.
And that's where we get the idea of purgatory.
I see. Wow. That's where now let me ask you this. You said that she had given you a Catholic Bible. How different is the Catholic Bible from a regular Bible?
Well, your Bible isn't the regular Bible. Ours was because ours was first.
Okay.
And then Martin Luther took 7 books out. And then he also changed some Bible verses that he didn't like. Like in the original Bible, it said, faith without works is dead. But the Protestant Bible says faith alone. But the original Bible didn't say faith alone. You're also not supposed to change any of the words or meanings of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And Martin Luther changed a bunch of words in the Bible. And like I said, took 7 books out of it. And then most Protestant religions went ahead and left them out, even though they knew that Martin Luther took 7 books out.
There's a book, I think it's called the Book of Moloch or Malik or something like that. It starts with an M. I'm a little bit rusty. Is
We
that
have we have Maccabees 1 and 2. Those
okay?
are both the Old Testament, and we have one that we didn't put in there. That's the book. Oh, what is that? It's um, it's a book that wasn't approved by the Catholic Church to go in there. It also wasn't approved by the Jewish scholars to go in there either.
But
But
was it originally in there?
no,
Okay.
no, but a lot of because it was out around the same time, a lot of Catholics now want it in there. And I can't think of, honey, do you remember the name of the book? The Old Testament, the book that a lot of Catholics and some Protestants want in the Old Testament, but it wasn't, it was voted out by one of the councils. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, I could just put it in the comments when we can look into it. You had said earlier about during your conversion that you had believed this lie that you had sold your soul. And I know you
Right,
had mentioned on other interviews that you can't sell something that you don't own.
right,
And I definitely agree with that. But isn't it amazing how if the enemy can get you to believe in a lie. If you were to believe that lie that, hey, I did, and that I Jesus can never save me and I can never be saved, that would have been a lie and that would have kept
right,
you away. It's
right.
amazing how he uses deception to keep people in darkness.
Correct. But to believe that lie means that you don't know Christ,
Hmm.
because who is stronger than Christ anywhere?
There's no
Satan certainly is not the stronger of the two,
right.
and if you're looking at it and you're wondering, well, how does he know that? Well, let's say you're a cabinet maker and you make a cabinet. Which one do you need to fear? The cabinet maker who made you, or the cabinet which has no life of its own?
The cabinet maker.
The cabinet maker.
Yeah.
Well, God is the cabinet maker and Satan is the cabinet.
Yeah.
Satan's got no power without God.
Do you think?
Satan can't even kill you without getting God's permission.
Yeah. And and it actually talks about that in Romans. They worshiped the creation rather than the
Right.
creator. And that's the thing. It's like a lot of people they'll worship the Mother Earth, and that's a big thing. And do you think that when people talk about worshiping Mother Earth and that kind of stuff, do you think they're actually worshiping a spirit of the earth, or do you think they're worshiping demons? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like when the Wiccans talk about it, the Wiccans don't believe in God, the devil, heaven, or hell. They believe that when they practice magic, they tap into the consciousness. When everybody dies, their soul circles the planet. It has no place to go. So when they do magic, if you tap into a good spirit, well, maybe you tapped into Gandhi. But if you tap into an evil spirit, maybe you tapped into Hitler. But they don't believe in demons. And they don't believe, like I said, or angels, God or Satan, and heaven and hell. These are all, it's very hard to evangelize to a Wiccan, because when we evangelize to one another, I don't want you to go to hell. But when you're talking to a Wiccan, they don't believe in hell. So what are you trying to save me from? It doesn't make sense to them, because all these things that you're wanting to warn them about, they don't believe exist.
So I mean, what are ghosts then? I mean, what are do they, are there do they exist in the because I know Catholic they do exorcisms and I do have demons. Where do they fall in line? Are there good spirits that deceive people? How does the spiritual laws work? Can you tap into them if you do drugs, or how does that work?
Well, unfortunately, certain drugs open up that third eye. Your third eye is generally open, though, because of a demon. So if you have your third eye open, you have to get an exorcism or a deliverance to get it to close. That those things do exist. And that's demons showing you things that you shouldn't see. When you take certain drugs, for example, it opens up an area of your brain that allows you to see things. Some of those things are fake and some of them are real. But a lot of it is the drugs that we take in the United States, as well as all around the world, have been cursed. They either have shaman come in and curse them, or a Satanist of some kind comes in and curses the drugs so they get addictive, or so that you see things that you're not supposed to see. But people that see that kind of stuff think that they're enlightened, that they are now seeing the world as it really is.
Yes.
The
So
Wiccans worship Gaia, who is Mother Earth, and then Druids worship God's creation, like trees. There's a lot of Wiccans that are not Wiccans, Druids that like cypress trees, and they will worship the tree. They also, if you've ever wondered where the mistletoe comes from at Christmas time, it's a Druid tradition.
I did not know that. So let me ask you this. Obviously, if they're worshiping these spirits must be talking back to them, right? I would assume.
Sometimes.
So
And,
if they,
and sometimes when they're talking back, it's not like me and you having a conversation.
uh-huh.
It's the spirit will come to them in their sleep. Or have you ever had a dream that was clearly satanic?
Not recently. Not it's been a long time.
Okay.
Can't really remember.
Well, a lot of people contact me because they have these nightmares every night and they don't know how to stop them.
Yeah.
There's a blessing called the Wounds of Christ blessing, and you get holy oil. Holy oil is just olive oil that's been blessed by a priest. And you put the sign of the cross in every place that I say, and bless yourself in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So it goes on the forehead, both eyes, your nose, both ears, your mouth, your throat, the nape of your neck, over your heart, palms of both hands, tops of both feet, and the right side of your torso. Demons cannot speak through that which is holy. So if you've got the sign of the cross and all the wounds of Christ, they can whisper to you all night long and you can't hear it.
Mm.
So if you're getting the nightmares, even on a regular basis or semi-regular, anoint yourself every night and you'll see that they go away. Now, if they don't go away, it's not demons whispering to you. It's just your own brain conjuring this stuff up.
So again, back to my original questions regarding like if they're talking to these spirits, are these spirits fallen angels or are they demons?
Fallen angels and demons are the same thing.
Okay. Okay. Um, Let me ask you the you talked about deliverance. How if someone, let's say they needed to get deliverance, how would they know they need deliverance and where would they go?
In the Catholic Church, you could buy, there's books like, there's an exorcist named Father Chad Ripperger, and he has a book called Deliverance Prayers for the Laity. Anybody can do these. Now, it's stronger if you have a Catholic priest do it over you, or if you're married, your husband would be head of the household. So the husband can do it. Um, in my household, even though I'm head of the household, I'm blind. So my wife would actually have to do it. I can do it over my kids, but somebody would have to tell me the prayer so I can repeat it back and bless whoever I need to bless. But it would be easier if my wife did it because I can't see the prayer. Um, Also, I have a curse test. Like people contact me from all over the world for this. It's a 30-day test to determine if you have a curse.
Wow.
If you think you do, like Freemason curses go for 4 generations.
Mhm.
So when you become a Shriner, which is a 33rd degree Freemason, when you hit the 23rd degree, up until the 23rd degree, you've done 1,000 oaths, sometimes to nonsensical things. I'm going to swear an oath to this blade of grass, and I'm going to put it in a place of honor in my house and never do anything bad to it. And then you take that blade of grass and throw it in the trash. And you did this under penalty of losing your left hand. But you do it and you don't lose your left hand. You're going to swear an oath to your lawnmower that you're always going to honor that lawnmower and not ever let it get dirty. Then you're going to go out and mow the grass, let it get as dirty as it can. And that was under penalty of death. And you don't die. One of the oaths is that you will never reveal that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That's not even a secret. But you did that under penalty of death. and you break it. Your son asks you and you tell him, and you don't die. So by the time you get to be a 23rd degree Freemason and you've made 1,000 nonsensical oaths and the penalty for all of those wasn't carried out, you don't believe in the sanctity of an oath. They have watered down what it means to take an oath.
Yeah.
When you first started, you took an oath to Jesus, so you thought it was a Christian organization. But the Freemason Lodge everywhere, their number one goal is the destruction of the Catholic Church. This is by their own admission. They say these things. So when you get to be a 23rd degree Freemason, you start taking Luciferian oaths. But last week, you made an oath to your wife's sandwich, your wife's dress. The week before that, it was to your sandwich. The week before that, it was to Netflix. What difference does it make that you're making Luciferian oaths? Your first oath was to Jesus. What difference does it make? Lucifer's not even around anymore. Now it's Satan. So you have 10 years or 10 degrees of Luciferian oaths. And then at the 33rd degree, you curse everyone in your family from you forward. So your brothers and sisters are safe. Your mom, dad, grandparents on back behind you are safe. But your children, your grandchildren, and your great grandchildren are all cursed. And then if somebody within those 4 generations also becomes a Shriner, then at the end of the 4th generation, it starts over again for another 4 generations. And again, if somebody in that line becomes a Shriner, then at the end of that 4th generation, it re-ups for another 4 generations. It can keep going almost indefinitely as long as somebody in your family line keeps becoming a Shriner. Now, also, some people don't know they're cursed.
Hmm.
Sometimes it takes the 4th generation to realize that every first son committed suicide, or every third daughter got an abortion, or everybody in your family line gets a divorce. And when you finally realize it, you might be the 4th or 5th or 6th generation. And this is when you realize. So at this point, you need deliverance. Now, some people don't know they have any type of curse. That's why people contact me, because I have this curse test. It takes 30 days to take. It's not hard. Don't think, oh my gosh, 30 days, what do we do? And it's also called a fast, but you're not doing a black fast. I mean, 30 days without food would kill some people. You're fasting for 4 hours a day. At the beginning of the 4 hours, you're announcing out loud, I'm fasting for the purpose of finding out if I have a curse.
Hmm.
At the end of the 4 hours, I fasted for the last 4 hours to find out if I have a curse. It's that simple. But you have to do that every day at the same time. Now, you can't do it during a time you would normally be asleep because that's cheating. But every day, say noon to 4, you're going to do that. And then you keep track of everything that happens to you. If at the end of 30 days, you've never had anything bad happen to you, you don't have a curse. I had a woman that the first day she fell down a flight of stairs and broke her leg. The second day, the leg swelled up really big. She got a cast put on it, but her leg still swelled up. Her feet, her toes were huge. Day 3, she did something else and hurt her arm really bad. Day 4, she hurt her hand really bad. Day 5, she hit her head really hard. She called me and asked me what she should do. I said, you should stop. You clearly have a curse.
Yeah,
Don't,
I
don't
agree.
go any further. Then your next step beyond that is you can either find out who cursed you, and that's a long, arduous process, or you can break the curse. I recommend to a lot of people you should go ahead and break the curse, and then if you really want to know, then there's tests to find that out. But the reason that the curse test works, when a lot of people think of a curse, they think of, well, there's a Satanist with an altar, and there's different colored candles, and there's a parchment and a quill, which is a piece of paper and a pen, and a knife, and they burn incense, and they have, all this different stuff, a skull, all this stuff for doing a curse. You're looking at a curse the wrong way. A curse is a Satanist or a witch who's praying to Satan to attach a demon to you.
Mhm.
The three basic curses, now there's millions of curses, but the three basic are there's a one shot, one deal curse where they send a demon to you. You're in a state of grace. Demon can't stick to you if you're in a state of grace, and he leaves. Then there's a tri curse. In a tri curse, I'm going to send the demon to you 3 times. It'll be 3 times at random. So today at 5 p.m., in 6 weeks at midnight, and in 3 months beyond that at 4 p.m. And every time he goes to you, you're in a state of grace. He can't stick to you and he leaves. Well, let's say the person that put a curse on you really hates you. And he hates you beyond everything. So he hires a high wizard to put a hex on you. In a hex, an abortion takes place. They're at an abortion mill. The high wizard is there. His altar is set up. He goes over when the abortion is taking place and he gets blood on his hands. He walks back over to the altar and he finishes out his hex and he lets the demon see the blood on his hands. So the demon goes to you and goes, "Oh, you're in a state of grace? No problem. I'll wait." And he just stands around. He hangs around with you. And you are the greatest Christian of all time. You don't sin for 3 years. And then on 3 years and one day, somebody cuts you off in traffic. And this was a bad day. And you are so mad, you cuss that person out, and you take the Lord's name in vain, and now you have sinned, and the demon attaches to you. Now it's been 3 years since the curse was put on you. It took 3 years for it to take effect, and you may not notice it for 20 or 30 years. You may not notice it until you have kids and things start happening to your kids, and you don't understand why. And that's when, again, my curse test comes into effect. The reason the curse test works is that you could fast 3 days a week just because you know it brings you closer to God. Demons don't care. Fast all you want. You could be going to, at the Catholic Church, you can go to Mass 7 days a week. You can also go twice a day if you want to. So you're going to Mass 14 times a week. They don't care. You're going to adoration 7 days a week. They don't care. None of this makes any difference to them. However, if you fast to find out if you have demonic attachments because you want to know if you have a curse, that they care about. And they will attack you to make you stop fasting for their intention. Because fasting to find out if they're attached hurts them. And they don't want that pain. So they attack you for that. Once you know you have the curse, then you can break the curse. And when you break the curse, they have to leave.
Okay, so let me ask you about that. Um, let's say, yeah, okay, for me, for example, I'm the head of the home. So my wife, if I did it on myself and I found that I'm clean, I don't have anything, could I do it for my wife or someone or for my son or something? Could a parent do
Yes,
it for their daughter or their child to see if they have?
yes. You can do it for one person at a time. But remember, every time you do it, it's 30 days.
Okay, so it's 30 days. It's fasting for 4 hours a day in the morning and also at night.
No, it's just once a day. And you've got my email address.
Mhm.
So email me and tell me in the subject line you want the curse test. We can email it to you.
Okay. But people who are watching, if they wanted to get that information, they would go to your website and get that or
My email address is mysticforgod@yahoo.com.
Mhm.
And email me, put curse test in the subject line. I mean, you can explain why you think you have a curse, but I don't really need to know any of it. You just tell me what you want and I'll email you the curse test.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow, there's so much knowledge here. I got a few more questions here. when you said you saw Jesus and you said you wanted to spend time with him in this, what'd you say? Is it like you said there's another area of the church. It's what was it called again? Where you could spend
If
time?
you if you have some churches have what's called an adoration chapel, you're
Okay.
going to adore Jesus.
Okay.
So it's a chapel that usually has anywhere from 10 to 50 chairs in it. And
Hmm.
at the front of the room is what's called a monstrance. It's usually gold plated. It looks like a sunburst, and in the middle of it is what's called a pyx. And
Hmm.
the pyx holds a big Eucharist. And the Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. And that's Jesus. And he's usually in every church, some of them 24 hours a day. If it's an adoration chapel that's open 24 hours, it's called perpetual adoration. If it's just a regular adoration chapel that's not 24 hours, then it's just called adoration. And these can be found at a lot. Like in my diocese, we have something like 140 adoration chapels in all, practically every church has one. So wherever, whatever country you're in, there should be an adoration chapel somewhere. You don't have to
Okay.
be Catholic to go in. You just go in the room.
Okay.
But you should genuflect, which means bowing one knee to Jesus, and then sit down and have your private time. You know, ask him
Okay.
whatever you want since you're there. You're sitting there face to face with Jesus. Say whatever you want to him.
So let me ask, when you did it back in 2008, did you have a conversation with Jesus? Did you see him? Did he?
I saw him for the first 3 years that I was Catholic. I saw him every time at the consecration during Mass, and I saw him in every adoration chapel that I went to. And when I'd been going for about 6 weeks, I I was in there and he's just standing up there, and I said, Jesus, when I converted, when Marianne Wickman gave me the miraculous medal, um, she told me my job was to help her end abortion. I can stop myself from doing abortions. I can't stop the whole world. I don't know what to do. And so he told me to wait a minute. So I waited a minute, and Mary showed up in adoration. And she said, use what you know. And she was gone. So
Wow.
I did a transcript for a CD set first called Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifice. And that's a 2 disc set. And then so many people wanted the transcript, I turned it into a book. So I have a book called Abortion is a Satanic Sacrifice. And in that book, I tell you how, and in the CD set as well, I tell you how we got abortion in the United States, what agencies I worked with as a high wizard to promote Satan's agenda and move it around the world. And in part 3, I tell you that abortion is spiritual warfare and how to shut down an abortion mill using spiritual warfare tactics. Now, to let you know how many that is worked on, my CD set has been out for 10 years. It came out in December 2015. And in 10 years, when they first come out, we had 865 abortion mills in the United States. The steps I say to take is fasting, prayer and fasting, having a Eucharistic procession, carrying an image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and people walking behind praying rosaries, having a Catholic Mass said at the abortion site, and having priests do an exorcism at the um, abortion mill. Um, the grace generated from all of those that have been done all around the United States, we have shut down 265 abortion mills in the United States in 10 years.
That's
So, another 10 or 20 years, they might all be closed.
Yeah.
And it's like, if my methods didn't work, if spiritual warfare didn't work, my methods wouldn't have shut down anybody.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let me ask you this because you're talking about a hex. What do you do if someone puts a hex on you?
It works the same as a curse. So if you think you have a hex, now the thing about a hex, though, almost everybody that contacts me tells me somebody put a hex on me. And hexes are rare. For a hex to be done, you've got to kill a baby in the
Right,
womb,
right.
and it's like, what have you done that pissed off somebody so bad that they murdered a baby for you?
Mhm.
And when people think about it like that, they're like, oh, maybe it's just a curse. Yeah, most likely it's just a curse.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
hexes are a big deal,
Right.
but hex is still a curse. And, it's still, you need to take the curse test. And then, whatever it is you find out you've got, then just go ahead and, do the steps it takes to get deliverance from it. Now, in the difference in deliverance and exorcism, there's people that believe that an exorcism would work for everything. There are 6 stages leading towards possession that you need deliverance for. There are one case that you need exorcism for, and that's possession. Think of it like deliverance is putting air in your tires, exorcism is putting gasoline or petrol in your tank. If you need air in the tires and you get it, you're golden. But if you have the mindset that the exorcism fixes everything and you need air in your tires and you put petrol in your tank, nothing's going to happen for you. It's not working.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
need to use the right tool for the right problem.
You know,
Now, one more thing I wanted to bring up, because I don't know when we're going to end this,
yeah,
but
go ahead.
there's a lot of people in the world that have a serious porn addiction. It is
Yes,
currently the number one addiction in the world.
yes.
We have a book called Delivered, and it's written by Matt Fradd, and we have given away a lot of them, and they work. They actually stop people's porn addiction. And if somebody somebody listening to this, either they have a porn addiction, or you have a friend with a porn addiction, or a relative, or it's your mom or your dad, somebody has a porn addiction, contact me, email me, text me. My phone number is on my website. It also, I have WhatsApp. It's the same number. Contact me and give me an address. Tell me what you want, that you want this book. We will mail it to you. We get the books. We have benefactors that buy the books for us. Then we get them blessed by a priest, and then we give them away for free. You don't even pay for shipping, and we'll mail you the book free.
Now let me ask you this: do they have that in Spanish?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll definitely, because I would love to maybe collaborate with some of the churches down here and talk to some of the fathers here and really do that, because where I live, there's a heavy sex trafficking thing down here. Guys come out here and it's just the people are exploited, and it's definitely a need not only in America but worldwide. Worldwide,
Right.
it's a porn addiction, and really it touches all parts of the world. Jesus said, when a spirit gets cast out of the house, it leaves. And then it'll come back to that house, and it'll find that house in order. Now, if that house is empty, it will take seven more spirits and come back, and that person will be in a worse position than they were before. And what Jesus said is, when if you have are possessed and you get exorcised, and there's a demon that leaves, or you're struggling with it and you get deliverance on something, You're not supposed to just sit here and do nothing, but you got to
Right.
read, you got to get in the Word of God, you got to spend time with Jesus. And I want to let you know that when you were talking about how you were in the Adoration Chapel, you know,
Hmm.
in Joshua, you know, Moses had a brother named Joshua. And when
Right.
Moses died, Joshua took over. But the thing about Joshua is when Moses came into the tabernacle of glory and he was in the presence of God and he left was speaking with God. Joshua was just like you. He stayed in the presence of God. And that's the thing. Demons don't like it when you stay in the presence of God. And it's a daily thing because nowadays we get distracted with Facebook, we get distracted with Instagram.
Right.
Nothing, people don't talk to each other, they text, you know. We
Right.
really need to, for such a time as this, we really need to dig in and be full of Jesus, be into the Word of God, be going
Right.
to church as much as you can. Let me ask you this. Do you think, in your opinion, when we get to heaven, that there's going to be different denominations, or do you think it's all going to be one heaven and we're all going to be in unity?
In the Catholic Church,
Hmm.
we have a dogma when dogmas are like rules that have to be obeyed. And if you don't believe in the dogmas, then there's no entrance into heaven for you.
Okay.
And around 250 AD, so 220 years after Jesus was here, the dogma was there's no salvation outside the church. Now, it was written in such a way so that if you live in a country where there is no access to the Catholic Church, you don't know about God, but you're pursuing God. You're trying to be holy and you're trying the best that you can. He's not going to condemn you for that. He's not, like there's places in the Amazon or in, some parts of Africa. They don't have access to a preacher or a priest or a Bible, but they still try and be good people. So they are not going to be denied heaven because they didn't know.
Right.
But we also have things like if you knew the Catholic Church was started by Jesus Christ, why would you reject that church?
Right.
Now, I know a lot of people they're taught things about the Catholic Church that are not right. One of the books, we have a benefactor that's buying these for us. We have a book called a catechism, and a catechism explains what the Catholic Church teaches, and also throughout the Bible, what different Bible verses mean. When I was a Baptist, they used to teach us that a Bible verse means something to you today, but it will mean something different to you tomorrow. And 3 years from now, it'll mean something completely different. The Catholic Church teaches that's not true. God is the same today, yesterday, and forever. His word is the same as well. Whatever that Bible verse means today, tomorrow is going to mean the same thing. And 3 years from now, it will mean the same thing. So this guy has a ministry where when he meets somebody that's Protestant, like preachers especially, he mails them a copy of the catechism because a lot of them talk about the Catholics from the pulpit. And he says, I know you're talking about us, but you're saying things that aren't true. So let me send you a book that explains everything that we talk about and what we teach. Because I'm pretty sure since you're a man of God, you're not going to read this book and then spread lies after that. You're going to preach the truth.
Yes.
So you're going to preach what we actually say, what we believe. You're going to read a Bible verse and know this is what it means.
Yes.
When I get some, would you like to have one?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I
Okay.
was gonna reach out to you on WhatsApp because it might be easier just to do audio message. And you could
Okay.
also send it you have my email also as well. And definitely would love to share. We're coming up towards the end of our interview here. Now
Okay.
are you active on WhatsApp often or
Um, I have, honey, how many WhatsApp messages am I behind right now?
85.
I'm 85 messages behind. Um, about 2 months ago, I had caught up to being zero, but I currently have 85 messages on WhatsApp. I have, at one time around July, I had 142 text messages. Now I'm over 1,000. And at one time back around July, I had 600 emails. How many of those I got now? 1,200. 1,200. So, and it doesn't matter how much I do, they just keep coming.
Yeah.
And I know I just said, I told people, email me if you want this. It might take me a minute to get to you, but I will get to you. I do respond to everybody. It just may take a while.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you have so much. You're like a living book, really. I mean, you've got so much knowledge. I really appreciate you coming out here and just sharing
Sure.
such wisdom with me. Um, and again, let's go over the highlights because there might be somebody watching right now who's maybe concerned that they may have a curse or more than likely it's a curse. It's not a hex because hex
Right.
involves the actual sacrifice of a baby.
Mhm.
So what they would do is maybe for 30 days nonstop for 4 hours, do you just ask it one time, do I have a curse on me? That's the steps.
No, you decide to fast for 4 hours each day. At
Okay.
the beginning of the fast, you say, I'm fasting for the next 4 hours to find out if I have a curse.
Okay.
And then at the end of the 4 hours, you say, I fasted for the last 4 hours to find out if I have a curse. But you don't have to take my word for it here and try to remember it. I have a curse test that I can email. Honey, can we WhatsApp that to them? What's that? Can we WhatsApp the curse test? Yeah. Okay, we can also WhatsApp it to you.
Okay.
Um, and you just say in the subject line that you want the curse test, and we'll email you the test. You don't have to
Okay.
go into your whole life in detail. I don't need to know all that. I just want to know what you want.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you hear that? You don't need a big explanation. Just send an email to Zachary King and you have his email. We're going to put it in the subtitle there and just tell him in the email headline, I want the cursed test, and he'll email it to you. Once they do find out a hex or a curse, more than likely it's going to be a curse. Do they go ahead and what do they do to get it removed from them? Do they buy this? You said
Well,
to buy a book, right? A book that deliverance for the layman, is that what you call? That was the name?
it's by Father Chad Ripperger. It's Deliverance Prayers for the Laity.
Deliverance prayers for the laity. Okay.
And you can get it new or used on Amazon. I imagine there's other bookstores also that have it.
Is it on Kindle too?
I think it is on Kindle.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you think deliverance should be done more than once, or is it just a one-time thing?
It's generally not a one and done. You
Okay.
generally have to do it more than once.
Okay. More than once. Got it. Okay. I'm writing it down. Okay. Wow. What an awesome interview. I mean, this is just, it's so much knowledge. I mean, I could talk to you all day?
Some people have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had interviews go, it seemed like they went forever.
Yeah. No, I think this is good. I think this is awesome. I'll definitely let you know. Let me go ahead and just stop the recording. I'll let you have the final word. Do you have anything you want to close out before we stop the recording?
I think to reiterate that you can't sell what you don't own. If you think you sold your soul to the devil, what you did is give your will to the devil. Once you go to confession and get back in a state of grace, you've given your will back to God. You might need a deliverance or an exorcism, but your soul isn't lost forever. You're not damned. Satan is not stronger than God.
Awesome. Well said. All right, I'm going to push the stop the